Thank you.
Not yet. All right, let's go around and say our names for the record and speak off. You know the drill. How are you showing up? And you need any accommodations today?
Sue Cathcart and sore leg, so I might get up and walk a little bit there.
Kristen Chester, apologizing to you all again for just totally being the space cadet last week. And missing the meeting.
No worries.
But I'm here and I'm fine and I need no accommodations.
Jan Christensen. I need no accommodations. I'm doing pretty good.
Don Kenyon, I am doing very well and I need no accommodation.
James Clevenger. I'm doing okay for now. And no accommodations needed.
Matthew McNabb. Made it here. A very full day, but I'm doing well and I don't need any accommodations. The light level in here seems bright to me. How does it seem to you all?
It's kind of weird.
Kind of weird?
Yeah, I'll give you a break. Yeah.
It's bright.
Yeah, it's more than we usually have, I think.
This one especially maybe just because it's right over my head.
Right.
Do we usually have it different than this?
No, this is it, because our only other option is this.
Oh,
Oh.
Clearly not that.
it's not bad. Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't- maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being this bright.
Got new bulbs about almost a year ago for the whole building.
I think you guys may have eaten those magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I better have one too.
All right.
Jan, could you pass me an agenda?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll take an agenda. Yeah. Thank you.
You use that one, right?
Mhm. All right. And there's no public comment because there's no public here. So I'll share screen and we'll pick up. Picking up with a pickup here. You can see the green sections are the ones we approved or consented to last time. And we have the text from the league that contains the same provision that our previous charter had, which is the provision of a qualified elector, which requires United States citizenship, which requires not being a felon currently serving time, and require
Keep going.
and requires 18 years of age or older.
You think that's what's required to vote?
That's my impression of what's required to be a elector. You're welcome to inform me
An
differently.
elector is someone that votes, right?
Yes.
So to qualify to vote, you have to be a resident and 18 years older
Mhm.
in the Lane County elections voting.
Mhm.
There's nothing about whether or not you have anything on your record.
So are people who are currently incarcerated serving time for a felony able to vote in Lane County?
It's a good question, because there's been case law on this. It used to be if you were a felon, you couldn't vote, and then it used to be, then it got clawed back to, you know, if it was a certain number of years ago, you could still vote, and then it was like certain felonies were exempt, like if it was for selling drugs or just
Mhm.
possessing drugs, they
Mhm.
did away with those. And Oregon's pretty liberal on that, and I don't know where the status is, but my guess is it's pretty broad now based on the league's suggestions.
Well, the league because they are comfortable with all of those terms, there's no need to spell that out. All right. So here's an example of Multnomah County's page. Is a person who is convicted of, been convicted of a felony eligible to vote. Cannot vote while they are serving their time of incarceration for the felony.
No, felon.
Once released from incarceration, they must re-register to vote in order to restore their voting rights.
Okay, so just while they're incarcerated. So, I mean, after you are released, you are still considered a felon for a lengthy amount of time, if not ever, depending on the offense. That doesn't block people from voting.
So
Be that desperate for voters. Seems to be-
If you do your time,
Hmm.
you do the crime, you do your time, then you're,
So you can vote until you're sentenced. I just read that in.
Yeah, because you're not incarcerated. But I guarantee you that the misdemeanor part is unconstitutional.
right, we can strike that.
They say you can't vote if you had a misdemeanor.
So the
No,
What's
in
the
our,
proposed language? Let's move to our proposal.
well, right now we're looking at A. The proposed language of C is in there to take care of whatever criteria from qualified elector other than United States citizen would need to be addressed. So in other words, if we want to make room for the Doogie Howser of political science to serve on our council, qualified elector prevents that. Because qualified elector means 18 years of age or older. United States citizen covers one piece of what qualified elector requires. Reside in the city for at least 1 year covers a second piece of what qualified elector requires. And the third we could cover with however we want to cover that in here. This is too broad. Great, let's scale it back. Let's remove it altogether if we want to remove it. But
I don't know how to word this, but I just don't know why it needs to be spelled out when it has to do with
state law.
state law.
Yeah, I would take it out because, like I say, especially Oregon. Most states, they're allowing more and more people to be able to vote, so. If we had something like right now, if we put in our charter that if you're incarcerated in a felony, you can't vote, that may be true right now. But next year, there may be.
great, so we have a severability clause and it's eliminated automatically.
But not only that, we don't, we have nothing to do with determining whether a person can vote. That is not up to this city, and why should it be in our charter?
There is nothing in the charter that is trying to determine when someone can vote.
But running for office.
Or running for office.
But we do have another, you have to
I mean,
be,
that's also up to Lane County, that's what I'm getting at.
but it is okay to have something here like that you have to be a citizen of, a resident of city
Yeah, for a year.
for a year.
So
That's okay.
qualified elector has criteria that it establishes. It establishes the criteria that you cannot be a currently incarcerated felon. You must be 18 years of age or older, and you must be a United States citizen. So the league is recommending put in your charter a qualification
Mhm.
for all three of these criteria. But you don't have to. I'm saying I would really like to see us remove one of those criteria,
The age.
the age.
Is there a way that we could say, sorry to interrupt this
You're good.
question, is there a way that we could say? Boy, I don't know how to say it, that, you know, we would accept a qualified elector and we would accept somebody that meets all those criterias and is under the age 18, or is there a way to exclude a younger person rather than be specific about the other two? And the reason I'm asking is because politics are kind of hot right now,
Mhm.
and I see this as kind of a partisan issue right now.
Really?
Oh. I think talking
Okay.
about somebody canvassing while being tried for a felony.
Oh.
It's kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's kind of a big deal. Like, I think that's,
Yeah.
you know, like, I think that's sort
Well,
of
when
black
you
and
look at
white
it that
thing
way, yeah.
that might turn people, that might cause people to vote against the charter
Okay.
based on
Mm.
having, you know,
Agree.
I'm wondering if there's a way to dance around that language
Mhm.
that doesn't trigger
Yeah, we'll take
reactions to current
anybody.
events. Yeah,
Just,
What about just eliminating C?
I would agree.
yeah.
We could, and because someone who is currently incarcerated as for a felony, which yes is part of the qualified elector, or excluding that as part of the qualified elector criteria, that person would be automatically excluded because they can't ever show up for, they can't show up for the swearing in.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could online if Zoom is
Zoom.
available in jail. But, but I mean, campaigning and getting the votes is gonna be pretty hard.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I wouldn't want anybody who's incarcerated to, I
Mhm.
certainly wouldn't vote for him and
you
Okay.
know,
Wouldn't even-
in Oak Ridge, if someone was in jail while they were campaigning to be in a city council seat, it would be everywhere.
Mhm.
Everyone would know.
So I don't have any problem striking C.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So do you guys think we should strike C?
are you still? The qualified elector will disqualify a convicted incarcerated felon.
Would
correct?
disqualify a currently incarcerated felon, yes.
So you just want to take out that offensive language.
Well, right, I don't, yeah,
I guess I don't quite get why you're taking it out.
It's because it includes the people over 18. In addition to the incarcerate,
The
no,
qualified elector,
yes, includes that you have to be 18 because you have to be 18 to register to vote.
so is that, are you saying you don't even want qualified elector as part
Right.
of it?
Yes,
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying that.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I'm not
I
saying.
mean,
that.
I'm
Just-
not against a 16-year-old or whatever running.
Yeah.
Whoever's qualified, but I would not want the, you know, a felon to be running, and heaven forbid that he's the only one running, you know, and we're in bad enough shape.
I also don't want to send ballots out to 2-year-olds because I guarantee you the 2-year-old's not going to fill it out. Parents are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then the parents are going to get 4 votes if they have 3 kids.
yeah.
Well,
yeah, but
this,
this isn't about ballots.
this doesn't
this is about
change anything with
qualifying
voting,
for office.
being able to vote.
Right, absolutely nothing with,
That's
Yeah,
county and state.
yeah,
yes.
so then the debate comes, you know, like, are we okay with crafting language in such a way that a person under 18 can run? With, you know, which is pretty much what you have written here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to be, I'm gonna try and be the centrist here. I don't know, the centrist or the chicken. But I'd be more comfortable saying in A, using, that somebody for running for office, the mayor and each counselor must be a qualified elector. I'd like that more than planning it out the way we have it right now.
It is certainly the more standard one.
Well, can you put the qualified elector with the exception of somebody who's underage?
Not really. The we might be able to find another way to word that. But I mean, there's only 3 criteria. If we think that someone who's currently incarcerated isn't going to be elected ever, then we don't really need that there. Or if we think that calling that out would have the charter,
I
charter
know.
rejected because of politics.
True, it's a pretty big deal right now.
Mhm. Then we don't technically need to have that in there. The most straightforward way that is likely to get the least pushback is just call out the one criteria remaining. Must be a United States citizen.
And
And reside in the
and
city.
Yeah,
city.
reside in the city is the standard additional criteria.
I don't know. Now I have this thought pop into my head that I feel pretty sticky on certain things like this committee, for example.
Mhm.
In the admin committee, I was pretty adamant that I felt people applying to be on this committee should at least be registered voters.
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
they-
she was a stickler for that.
They
Yeah.
were talking about changing
Mhm.
laws that require votes to be,
Mhm.
you know, to pass. And so, um, so I don't know. And I mean, so much about city council is, you know, legislative, agree to this, agree to that.
Mhm.
Things that I wouldn't want a 10-year-old or a
I
12-year-old
certainly wouldn't.
and most 16-year-olds
Right.
making those decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, my comfort with raising the voting age to 21. There's your average pool of, do I think your average 18-year-old is competent to make these kind of decisions? No.
Mm.
Your average 21-year-old, maybe. But this isn't a question of who votes.
No, I know,
It's-
but being a counselor requires understanding a ton.
So
of
we don't care about average at all.
Legislative, you know, laws and stuff, research, you have to
Right.
understand the material that's in front of you to vote on it.
Mhm. So background, I served on a youth advisory commission for the city council of Naperville, Illinois. When that was first created back in, date myself here, 1992 or 93, I think. I was my high school's representative to the city of 150,000 people. The only reason that those of us on such a committee bringing youth vote to the city, or youth perspective to the city, would not have been able to run for council when we were once. I mean, we got to know policy and procedure really well. I got powerful letters of recommendation for university from that experience. Got to know Robert's Rules of Order pretty well. So the next year, when I'm 17, I would have known more of Robert's Rules of Order and council procedure and all sorts of things impacting that city than hardly any resident in that city. Does that mean that I would have wanted for a city of 150,000 people to take on that responsibility while I was in high school? No, would not have wanted to. but duplicate that same sort of experience in a town this size, where the amount of legislation considered is much less, where the complexities of the decisions are much less. It requires intelligence. But I don't see any compelling reason for blocking someone out. We're talking about trying to get more people to care about the city. We're talking about trying to get more young people invested in the future of living here, of what happens. And to be able to say, hey, look, if you can demonstrate to the voters that you know what you're talking about. I look at some of the counselors that we've had. There's a lot more knowledge in some 16-year-olds' heads, and even a lot more diplomacy if they know what, if they've, not a lot of 16-year-olds, some, that I would have no problem moving for them, but I can't.
So right now, they have to wait until they're 18,
Right.
which I don't think is that big a deal. But maybe they can serve in other factions, like
Maybe.
on committees. Get their feet wet, and when they're 18, they can run with it.
Mhm.
That's kind of where I feel like,
Or even develop a youth advisory
Yes.
committee that has to do, that reports to council or
Mhm.
reviews council.
give them extra
Paperwork or
credit
whatever.
at school and whatever.
Yeah,
you
we
know,
actually had
encourage
a-
them.
a counselor back in, I would say 16-ish or 17.
Mhm.
That that put the idea out there to the council. They approved it to
Mhm.
form that committee through the school.
Mhm.
And the school was already and on board with the whole thing, and then that counselor's term ended and it went nowhere.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I think there'd be interest in the community if somebody wanted to start and implement a program like that again.
So we're talking about something additional. I'm not trying to block the starting of any committee like that. I'm trying to prevent the ageism that's currently built into almost every charter. Because it's not addressing, charters aren't about whether the majority are capable. Charters are about whether we want to block the exceptional person who is capable. And that's what this language, right? That's what the provision of qualified elector does. It says, I don't care if you have 180 IQ. I don't care if you know parliamentary procedure inside out. I don't care if you are willing, as part of your education, to devote twice the number of hours to reading the city's legislation as any other counselor currently serving. We don't want you. And I am not okay with saying that. I think that's wrong.
You know if there's any other cities in Oregon that have,
There are currently none. No.
or any other state?
Yes, there are some states that have taken. There are some cities in other states that have taken it out.
And that's all they did was take that out.
Yeah, that's all you're gonna do.
So they could run for city council, but they couldn't vote for themselves.
Correct, absolutely. They can't vote for themselves. They can't go around their high school going, please vote for me. They have to get out and appeal to adult voters. And so far in the cities that have done this, do you know how many of the youth in the exceptional youth in those cities have succeeded at mounting that campaign and convincing the adult voters, please vote for me?
How many?
None. Absolutely none.
Really?
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 Yeah. Yeah. So if there's such a concern that, oh no, we're going to be overrun with high schoolers and no adult is going to want to.
I have no concern.
That's not what bothers me. It's taking out the incarceration. I know.
It's using the veil of
Yeah.
the elected
They don't even have to tell you
Qualified
they have
elect-
a history or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. I have a very smart grandboy, so I
Mhm.
get what you're saying.
Mhm.
He's smarter than a lot of adults I know,
Mhm.
and he's only 13.
Alright, you know, trying to have an open mind about it, like, what if there is a? Let's see,
How's
no
your son?
incarcerated felon, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, what it, you know, like, I was just wondering, but this is a, what I was wondering is already allowed. Like, what if there is a convicted felon that wants to run for city council and
Mhm.
everybody wants them to be their leader?
We've already had
Yeah,
one.
yeah, so that's fine,
Mhm.
but that's not what we're talking about. We're
Yeah.
talking about somebody currently serving time.
Mhm.
But maybe the wild camp, maybe just take out the campaign language, right? No person incarcerated for a felony offense is incarcerated. No person currently incarcerated for a felon offense is able to run for office in the election. Yeah. It's a little softer.
in that election cycle, meaning I guess they can run later when they're not in jail.
Mhm.
And we have had one, you said? Let's see
Yeah,
who
I
that-
believe
who
it.
that-
Yeah.
who that was.
One that we know of, maybe more, that we don't.
I'm a convicted felon.
Are you now?
Actually, that's not true. I am a convicted felon.
We- You did coke, didn't you? When you were
No.
18?
Nope, I used a credit card that did not belong to me when I was 16 years old.
Huh.
And I went to prison for it. But
Wow.
it was it was before I turned 18 and so your record's expunged. So if anybody looked me up right now, it doesn't show up.
Mhm.
But it is true.
Sent you to jail?
They sent me to Hillcrest in Oak Ridge, Salem
Mhm.
prison,
Seems
juvenile
harsh.
prison. Well, I already spent a lot of,
Ah,
Oh,
It's-
roughneck.
I had,
Redhead.
I had a.
and I've also spent a night in jail.
Mhm.
They took my shoelaces, so I wouldn't hang myself. It's like Alice's Restaurant, Acid
Oh,
Creek.
Mhm.
goodness.
Oh, love that
19
song.
years old, Chicago times.
Mhm.
Huh. So where are we? Let's look at this.
I would, if we want to go this way, I would say, convicted and incarcerated. Because the way it reads now, you could technically just be in jail, but
Ah.
you haven't been convicted
Okay.
yet.
Hmm. All right, the chicken comfortable girl in me is saying, while I propose this language, I think I prefer scratch C and use the terms the mayor and each counselor must be qualified elected. I don't know if I'm ready to rock the boat.
Yeah, I don't, what we had seems to say. Except for,
Except for the
Except
fact that
other
it,
person.
Except it doesn't allow people under 18, that's.
Mhm.
the issue.
And I still think it's just 2 more years.
well,
Yeah.
some of them won't be here 2 more years later. They hit 18 and they go away to college. And that
Then they
2,
can only serve
And they
2
can-
years, and that's.
Yeah, and then they
Okay.
get to a full term.
So, so if they're 16, and let's say it's an election like this one, and they're elected for 2 years. That experience of feeling that, not only feeling, I mean, it's being palpably invested in a city, being trusted by the residents. That's powerful. Because we're not talking about about the goal of attracting back somebody who likes the outdoors, likes the home. We're talking about attracting back somebody who has an extraordinary intellect, an extraordinary understanding, who has who is going to have a lot of capability to go elsewhere. And I think it behooves us to not discriminate against someone who is going to have to convince the voters. Why would we be the ones to say that kind of person, the voters shouldn't have the opportunity to vote for them?
And the way this is written right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
Would allow a 16-year-old.
Yes.
To vote.
Yes.
I'm okay with that because it doesn't say. The 16 is not in here anymore.
Right.
So that 16-year-old is gonna have to be smart enough
Right.
to realize, oh, hey, I can run for office in this town.
Right.
Because I'm a US citizen, and I've lived here for more than a year.
Right.
And not,
And
Yeah.
not currently incarcerated.
no.
It's just so freaky knowing it's gonna be 8 years or more before they have any reasoning capacity.
Well, we could be just the other way.
Mhm.
Right.
All right, see y'all later then. I'm out of here.
All right, so we've all had a chance to weigh in on this. I'm going to actually propose that we use the language that's written here for all of these sections. So keep in mind that the way that the sociocratic procedure works is if you have a reasoned and paramount objection, meaning I think this is going to jeopardize the long-term viability of the city or jeopardize the approval of the charter. If we use this language, then please object. And otherwise, if you're thinking, yeah, I can live with this, then let's go with the I can live with this. So,
Choose one of those.
well, you can do a sideways thumb of but I'm not going to object. I don't think that this is going to jeopardize the city, and I don't think this is going to the long-term viability of the city, and I don't think that this is going to interfere with the passage of the charter.
I'm curious why we've had this.
We talked about that one last time. This is in our existing charter,
Oh,
and the league's language leaves it just with the council. Yes.
Well, that says the council is the final judge of the election and qualifications of its members.
That's
What
like
is
throwing
the
all the
elec-
other stuff out. They
What
can
does that
decide.
mean of the election? Like I get voted in, but the council can say, well,
if it's a tie. And this has happened in recent history.
yeah,
If there's a tie, then it comes back to the city and the city has to decide what they're
no,
gonna do,
Lane
right?
County did it. They actually, Lane County put both their names in a hat and both people were present and there was 2 witnesses. And they drew a name out of the hat and that person won.
Lane County broke our charter,
Well,
basically.
Yeah.
We should have been able to, I mean, we've
But
been able to
no.
have the same idea.
our current one says shall be final judge of the qualifications and
And-
election
Mhm.
of its own members.
So that that's not the ability to set the qualifications. Nor is it the ability to conduct the election. It's the ability to ascertain whether the qualifications have been met. And it's the capacity to, but
But the other way that they're suggesting, changing the words where election and qualifications is in a different order, to me says something different. Like the council has the ability to judge whether or not someone who was elected is able to be on council.
right, so this person was elected, but now she moved out of the town. Before she even was sworn in. That's not going to be kicked out of county. That's going to be the city saying, yeah, look, you no longer meet the terms required.
Or you find out that she's been lying the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
That's all it's talking about is
Okay,
the city, the council can say no.
I just think that the however, would be by court of common jurisdiction, I don't think that's necessary.
Mhm.
Because someone can always sue. And I think that could add an extra step. Because that could say, okay, city council is to decide this, but they don't really get to decide because.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, the model we're trying to go by is going by the league's language unless we have a compelling reason not to. So,
and they don't have it.
and they don't have it. So I am okay striking it.
I prefer to strike it. And it just adds language and complexity that's unnecessary.
I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
We got the word subject too.
All right. So I would propose that we use the language as written.
I have one more point.
Yes.
I've always found this trouble. So neither the mayor or council may be employed by the city. What's employed? Employed as a volunteer firefighter who receives a $100 stipend for a 12-hour shift.
Hmm.
If that's the case, well, we've got two.
I've always had a bone of contention with that.
Mm.
Cause I think if you're being paid by the city, it's just seems like a conflict of interest to me.
It is in the budget law and you have to declare a conflict and they do. They follow the law.
Yeah, I still don't like it. I think it should be citizens, not employees of the city.
Yeah, but you know,
But
what,
in the same token, all counselors are volunteers, so you're judging one volunteer against another.
right, or what if it's a subcontract, like we have this Oregon State Fire Marshal grant to do.
A contractor is not employed.
That's what I'm asking.
Being paid by the city.
Yeah, paid by the city.
Not an employee.
Well, should we say full-time employee?
No, because then the part-time parks guy or person.
I mean, obviously, it must have.
I think there's an actual legal definition for employed.
Yeah.
And volunteers don't meet that criteria, right?
I guess not.
Volunteer with stipend.
Stipend.
Which is not wages.
Can there be large stipends? Almost like it would be a wage.
There can be a large stipend if the person is incurring large expenses to do the work for the city. Absolutely.
There could be a large stipend if it was contracted that way.
Yeah.
You have to have contract, which has to go through.
Right?
Are the stipends governed by contract? Is that?
Yes, they're governed by policy and contract. But what about a subcontractor, like someone's on council and they own a construction company and they win the bid, they say they will rebuild the WAC for only $3 million and everyone else was $5-6 million.
Mhm.
So yeah, that would be awesome. They're gonna give us a great deal.
Mhm.
But now are they employed by the city?
Nope, they're contracted.
Okay.
Because they're subcontract, okay,
Yep.
um,
I think it'd be appropriate if they were recruiters, you know, didn't vote on
Mhm.
contract, right?
Yeah, oh, that would have to be that way
Right,
anyway.
Recruits, sorry, I'm stumbling.
It's
over that.
called a conflict of interest.
Yeah,
That's what they recuse themselves. to.
recuse themselves from doing.
well, I'm comfortable with it then.
Okay. So how are we sitting? Yep. Yep. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right. So this is highlighted here. We had consented to section 7.5 with a caveat. So caveat was must adopt an ordinance prescribing the manner or manners for a person to be nominated to run for mayor or a city councilor position. So if we adopt districts, there's two different potential procedures. So technically it would need to be manners. We didn't adopt districts as part of the charter. Nevertheless, we're sending an amendment for the possible adoption of districts. This is one way to handle it. Another way is just leave manner, or another way is to put in manner or manners. Let's
I like the apostrophe S.
I like apostrophe, yes, yes.
Yeah.
put a little
The parentheses, yeah.
of this.
I mean, parentheses.
Yeah, no worries. We all good with that?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So note about officer. Okay, so report, any report on oath questions?
Yeah.
Yay.
Here's my notes. Uh, This is from Robin Klein, who's the Assistant General Counsel. We've been back and forth a couple times now. She said, thanks for chatting with me regarding your question of whether an oath of office should address the conflicts between state and federal law. They do have an FAQ, and I've got that on oaths of office found here. And the footnote addresses your question specifically. Some cities have modified their oaths of office regarding adherence to all laws of the United States to address the conflict of law between the state and federal law. Oregon state legislators take an oath of office, and she put that here, and it doesn't say anything about. Let's see. This was Secretary of State.
Mhm.
I do solemnly swear to affirm that I will support the Constitution of the U.S. and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties therein.
Nice.
There's laws taken out of it.
Laws taken out of it.
I like it.
I could easily go with that.
And then the other footnote that she was talking about. LSC has been advised that some cities have modified their oaths of office regarding adherence to all laws. The status of marijuana in Oregon is at odds with federal laws regarding the substance. Because of this disconnect, some cities are considering recognizing this disconnect in their oath of office by leaving out the word laws.
Mhm.
Which seems to be an easy enough solution.
I like it.
So that would be, thank you for that report.
Mhm.
So that would be the constitutions
Mhm.
of the United States and Oregon. And then there would be no need for any of this. To specify whether, if there's a conflict, blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
all of that goes away.
Should we match the Secretary of State oath exactly?
Let's see. Can you read it again, please?
I, whoever do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of whatever office. According, oh, I mean, there's that extra line, according to the best of my ability.
Ability or abilities?
One,
Can you read it one more time so we can?
I blank do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of whatever office according to the best of my ability.
I think everything except for the best of my ability is in what we already have proposed.
Now, there is a difference between support and the word that we had.
Discharge.
I think we had initially uphold,
Hmm.
but it looks like support across the board here, so never mind. Discharge versus perform.
Yeah, discharge. Yeah.
I think discharge is too big of a word. It needs to be performed. We're trying to take out
Mhm.
the fancy words that not everyone would know.
Well, it's already up above.
Well, aren't we,
We are not putting the oath in here. We're explaining that before the duties of a.
Well, one option would be this, and I have not gotten rid of that, by the way. This was the prior text. And two. We could leave out best of abilities,
there instead of mine?
but we could leave that out altogether if we wanted to.
Constitution should be plural.
Thank you.
And do we want to say mayor and counselor? Oh, we did. Never mind. Got it.
I think that's good. That's basically the same thing there. The only thing we've added is that before.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think
Yes.
All right, how we doing? Okay, consented. Yay.
The other thing she said was just echoing what we had also said, is if it came down to a discrepancy between the federal or the state constitution, that the feds take precedent. But we had already figured that.
Section 7.4. Oh, qualifications. Share briefly. Okay, so this is section 27. Our committee, or the parallel to our section 27. We have consented already to the section 7.8 language. But this is the section, this is the appropriate section for defining sitting councilors, which we've used in section 4.3. It may also need to be updated to align with section 7.4, depending, and that's up here that we just did today, depending on the language we consented to in that section. So we would, to align it with section 4.3, we need to say that each vacancy reduces the number of sitting, reduces by 1 the number of sitting councilors. And also, let's see, remove the following language if and only if the qualification of qualified elector was omitted from our section, our approved version of section 7.4, which is ceasing to be a qualified elector under state law.
And we already.
And we did
consented
that. So
Delete that.
So that would be, and we consent to remove this then,
Mhm.
that we've done that. And then add each vacancy reduces by 1 the number of sitting councilors. So the mayor or a council office becomes vacant, A, upon the incumbent's death, adjudicated or incompetence or recall from office. That's what's currently in there.
What is adjudicated incompetent?
I remember we discussed that before. It's like, by a doctor sent to the insane asylum
Oh,
or, severe, Alzheimer's or dementia.
is that already in our current charter?
No, it came from the,
Oh, okay. Well, that is also currently politically.
oh, yes.
We have both sides. This is an amazing time. Amazing time to be alive. All right, so we're gonna take another, because basically there have just been 2 changes. Are we okay with how this stands for the 2 changes? This is the time to ask any questions as well.
I thought our current charter had something about if you move out of the city or.
Ceasing to reside in the city, number
3.
Yep.
Then we'll have to read it. Number 3.
Oh. I'm confused by all this A, B, 1, 2, 3.
Right,
It's not making sense to me.
We just
yeah,
need to read
it's
it.
hard to get the indents. No, I see it now.
Okay, so they need, yeah, the 1s, 2s, and 3s need to be indented, I guess. Okay. All programs just worked right.
When you're in tables, the indent takes it over and it's what is feels like an insane amount. So that's why I'm doing it this way.
Okay, so.
All I'm doing is playing around with formatting.
So I would say on number 2, under B. Absence from all meetings within a 60-day period. Should be potentially modified to unexcused absence.
Unexcused absence. Mhm.
Although, I don't know, 60 days, 2 months, why would anybody need to be out that long?
Well, and we've already actually talked this through.
We have,
Yeah. So the only changes are these two, removing this one and adding this. Everything else here we've already talked through.
Yeah, except for, I would be like unexcused absence
How would like an excuse?
or upon declaration by the council. I mean, does the council have to declare it if those things have happened? Or can the council decide to declare a vacancy after those things have happened? You know,
they can decide to declare a vacancy after those things have happened.
no, but they don't have to. I mean, let's say that our beloved counselor had a stroke and, you know, was mostly there, but didn't get speech back for
The-
2 months and 2 days.
The reason we kept this,
That has-
yeah,
Yeah.
the reason we kept it this way was because of Zoom. Because of the ability for remote.
Mhm.
We're like, look, there's, at this point, if you are not getting in there, you're not serving the city and you need to, if the council needs to be able to replace you.
So why? Is there a problem with adding the word unexcused before that thing?
Um,
Because let's say there's a NASA astronaut that is gonna go on a space mission for 61 days. But they're gonna be here for every other single meeting for the rest of the year.
Or a sabbatical or something.
again, it's declaration of the council. The council can be like,
Mm.
we really like our astronaut. We're not gonna declare that. We're not gonna declare the seat vacant. Council can do that.
What is the resistance to adding the word unexcused in front of absence?
Because if the council doesn't take a vote on a particular absence in the entire series,
Mhm.
and the council, and then the person says, well, that one wasn't unexcused. Now you gotta restart the whole clock again, and the city, and the city is without a seat filled. And it needlessly ties the council's hands. In all meetings within a 60-day period. It's,
Or maybe.
I mean, I guess the declaration by council kind of has a safeguard there.
Yeah, so basically what that means is the council can not like somebody and boot them out or like somebody and keep them in. So it allows you to have, be judgmental.
it does. If the person is absent for all meetings within a 60-day period. So if you've made a bunch of enemies on the council, make sure you show up.
Do we really want the conviction of misdemeanors?
No. No.
No.
Wait, what, just felony?
Yeah, well, I would match the other one, say conviction and incarceration for a felony crime on office.
Yeah, because isn't a DUI a felony?
It can be.
Seems to not really matter anymore. It's like a,
Yeah, they are typically misdemeanors. I say misdemeanors, but if it's like your third one, or if you injure someone, it can become.
I mean, I think if you get 10 DUIs, you should still be able to be on the council.
Our current charter,
Not driving.
Not allowed.
You can love
You get assigned an Uber.
our current charter,
Bring your bottle with you.
Big fun to pay for your Uber.
I mean, Our current charter says conviction of an offense that has the statutory penalty of a year or more of incarceration.
Mhm. Which essentially is a felony, right?
Yeah, but there are misdemeanors that are up to a year.
Yep.
Up to a year. Year or more is longer than up to a year.
Do we want to just, I mean, right now, we're revisiting sections of a consented decision that weren't changed, but we can do that.
Well, I do not remember talking about putting misdemeanors.
We did, we were, and we looked up, sentencing timelines,
I
we,
did miss one meeting,
Yeah,
so maybe.
may have been that one. The, we could keep the, you know, we could, re-implement the language of the existing charter.
Vincent.
James, yeah.
I think it should be conviction and incarceration just to match what we already said. Also because any major Trump supporter will not vote for this charter.
Oh.
Because that is, that's Donald Trump right now.
Mhm.
Donald Trump has been convicted,
Yeah,
but he's not incarcerated. And he won't be incarcerated. But these, the important.
So we would lose all the Republicans.
So,
which it brings me back to my sideways vote of,
mhm.
my stance as an extreme centrist of like, let's work with the things we agree on.
Yeah.
I still, I guess I'm expressing it's worth revisiting what we just decided on. In the risk of losing half the Republican, half the votes.
We have on all of the topics that I can think of said, we can live with this or we can't live with this.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to get more of a, on that one particular
Yeah.
vote, we allowed 3 versions, up, down, or maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe being,
Yeah, and defaulting to, yeah,
Mhm.
I can,
so we
I
should,
consent to that.
you want to do an up or a down then?
I'm gonna do a sideways.
Mhm.
Defaulting to what your 3 positives.
It's the same thing. It's the same,
Oh,
it's
okay,
the same
yeah.
process.
Mhm.
I have a question on B2.
Mhm.
The absence of, in a 60-day period, how many meetings are there? 4?
4 scheduled meetings.
So you're saying they can miss 3, but if they're there at 1, it's okay?
And they could miss all of the scheduled 4 if they attended at one of the emergency meetings, if there happened to be an emergency meeting. It's saying literally every single meeting in that 60-day period, you couldn't make a single one of them.
But what if you had explained it to the council and they accepted it and so it's an excused act? Or is there no such thing as an excused act?
There are
Where
definitely,
you're not.
there are definitely excused absences.
There is, and they probably wouldn't get the declaration of council.
Yeah.
That's the safeguard is by declaration.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is that opening it up to favoritism?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
100%. I could miss 4 meetings and be left on the council and another person could miss 4 meetings and get tossed. Or vice versa. Someone else could be kept and I could get tossed because certain
think
number
I
of people
like
don't
that.
like me.
Yeah, I don't think I like that.
Then show up to the meeting.
By Zoom from the space station.
Yeah, but
Hospital.
They're gonna call him Hammer Man.
I know.
I love it. I mean, this is not a hill I would die on, but I agree with you. favoritism, I don't think leaving room for favoritism is a very good idea. But, this isn't my hill, right? I would show up for the meeting.
They,
But if I was a very religious person, and I don't even know what religion does this, but some people go on sabbaticals.
Mhm.
We had our judge go on sabbatical for like 4 months. Oh, and this reminds me, there's a provision in the charter that you can appoint a pro tem when there's gonna be a certain amount of
oh, yeah,
absence,
good
so,
point.
so why are we even?
Yeah.
Why do we even have that?
Well, if someone isn't even gonna bother appointing a pro tem. They're just not gonna show up. This gives the council the opportunity to say. We need representatives for the city. We're going to appoint someone to take over your seat because you apparently don't care.
But what I think is. What some of the people in this room are saying, I think, is. That some things are justifiable enough.
Mhm.
Potentially. To be considered excused.
Mhm.
Which should not allow. A judgmental council to have the ability to kick them off.
That's true, but if we took that out. Then technically a counselor could miss half the year. And they couldn't be kicked off council.
I
Yeah.
agree. Well, actually. What I'm trying to get at is that maybe what we should be focusing on is looking at the. How can we fill an excused absence of a lengthy period of time? And I think that's covered
It's covered elsewhere, yeah.
in the pro tem part, right?
Absence.
Yeah, can we revisit that?
Yeah, can
That
you see
wording.
what that looks
Filling
like?
vacancies. All right, so now we've made 3 changes here. The ceasing, the omission of ceasing to be a qualified elector. The addition of each vacancy reduces by 1 the number of sitting councilors. And the paralleling of convicted of an conviction of an incarceration. Or a felony crime while in office.
And we are also in the middle of discussion on.
Yes,
number 2.
right.
Mhm.
Absence from the city council. Okay. So filling vacancies, a mayor or councilor vacancy will be filled within 60, again, that's something we've already consented to, within 60 calendar days of appointment by a majority of the remaining council meeting members. The appointee's term of office runs from appointment until expiration of the term of office of the last person elected to that office. If a disability prevents a council member from attending council meetings, a majority of the council may appoint a councilor pro tem. In the event that resignations or other events reduce the quorum to 2 or 1, pro tem appointments may be made at the council's discretion until vacancies are filled.
So that middle paragraph right there kind of technically conflicts with, we can get rid of you if you're gone for 60 days. You see my point?
No,
No,
It says if a disability prevents a count. Speak right.
no,
From attending council meetings, a majority of the council may appoint them.
may.
Yeah,
may appoint a counselor pro tem,
right.
right? So if our beloved counselor has a stroke that keeps
Right.
him out for 61 days, then we can appoint, the council can appoint a temporary counselor to fulfill their job, to make decisions until that person comes back from their stroke.
But if it's an unbeloved mayor.
Right.
Or
after
counselor.
61 days, the council can say, get rid of it. Get rid of that person.
Right,
That's the favoritism I don't like.
gotcha.
And the favoritism is going to be there, whether it's per time of, no, we're not going to excuse the absence. Or overall. I would much rather shunt the favoritism toward the overall. Because it favors the continuity of the council. it allows the council to say, yeah, I know that, I know that we excused this one and this one and this one, but come on now. You've just told us that you're going to be gone for another month because you're making a pilgrimage in Spain. We're not going to hold this seat open for you. Well, actually, you don't even have to, because you know, technically that one, I'm just saying it backward there, but it's the, I don't want to make it where you can't kick me off because you were you approved some of these as
Excuse.
excuse, or well, I mean, actually, in that case, yeah, you can't kick them off because they were there for one of them. Okay, it's the person was absent. I'm sorry, I want to say that. So the person is absent. I'll start again. Person is absent 60 days. 3 of the meetings, they remembered to call in and get the excuse. 1 of the meetings, they didn't. And now the person is going on a pilgrimage in Spain. This is not someone who is demonstrating I'm fulfilling what I wanted to be elected for. So I don't want to tie the council's hands to say, oh, well, because you approved 3 of those absences, you need to wait for 60 days from the one that you didn't approve.
That's not good.
No, just let the council make the decision.
Seems like if you add the word unexcused absences, then you're making the person culpable for at least reaching out to the council and saying, I have a reason.
The person can do that anyway.
Right, but here you're making, and then you're not relying on whether or not enough people on the council like you and they're gonna let it slide. They're gonna say every time, yes, this is okay, no, it's not okay. So by the end of 60 days, you know how many unexcused absences there were.
Or maybe it takes 120 days, because 60 days, the exact absences are excused, but now the council is gone for another 60 days. So
Yeah.
they're like, forget it.
And that's what I don't want, is that situation where
How likely is that to be, though? How often does it happen where somebody gets elected knowing they're gonna be gone?
Well, I can think of one time when we had a mayor who was a contractor locally, who ended up getting a very lucrative offer to work, and this is pre-Zoom, to work in another county for several months. And he came to the council and said, you know, I'm probably gonna be missing a lot of meetings for the next 6 months, because getting back here for a Thursday night meeting and being back on the job for a Friday morning job duty 8 hours away was a difficulty for him. So he missed a lot of meetings, and the council said, we'll deal with it. The council president can fill your role.
so they appointed the pro temp.
Well, the council president is already is appointed every 2 years.
Mhm.
And their exact only duty is to fill the seat of the mayor if the mayor can't attend a meeting.
Mhm.
So that's what they agreed to do at that time. It was a council decision.
Which was to appoint a pro temp.
Well, you can use those words, or you can just say, use the pro tem that was already appointed 2 years ago, because that is.
And then they still
Council
function with a
president.
6-person council. That's what that sounds like.
I mean, I have functioned as the role of the mayor 2 times in the last couple of months, almost a third. I mean, the rarest of rare things could happen. The day before the first meeting of the month, I get COVID. No way I'm even sitting through a Zoom meeting. I am sick in bed on the bottom of my back. I recover from that, and 2 days before the next meeting, I break my arm and I'm in the hospital having surgery on the day of the meeting. You see where I'm going with this?
Keep going.
2 weeks after that, I have my daughter
Mhm.
ends up in a car accident, and I'm going to Portland, and I don't give a shit whether there's a Zoom meeting on
Mhm.
the council. And then 2 weeks after that, some other crazy catastrophe happens that,
Mhm.
you know, I could call for every one of those and say, catastrophe, 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 catastrophe.
And then
But
the
with-
favoritism.
But with that rule and the favoritism, if there was a majority of counselors that don't like me,
Mhm.
they could say, too effing bad.
Mhm.
And that's the part I don't like.
That's what I don't like either.
I mean, you could be at all 81 other meetings in the year
Mhm.
and as committed as heck, even while on COVID, I could be studying manuals or, researching things for the next meeting.
Mhm.
And I can't make, ended up breaking my darn arm.
So, this is the league's suggested language. The league had said absence from the city for 30 days without council consent, or from all council meetings within a 60-day period. We had left out we had omitted intentionally absence from the city for 30 days without council consent because people can attend via Zoom.
I don't know if you can tie in something when you're elected to this office, you're supposed to fulfill these duties. Sort of tie it into that. You're trying to get rid of the people that are blatant,
Mhm.
don't really care.
Mhm.
I don't know,
Maybe we
you
should just say that. If it's apparent that you blatantly don't care,
Yeah.
we can kick you out.
Well, and in the instance that you're giving of, you're bringing these excused. If the council doesn't like you, they can refuse to make that absence excused anyway. They can be like, no.
No, because actually the person that you report to for being excused or not is the city administrator, not the council. Because you can't collectively pull the council outside of a meeting, prior to a meeting, to say whether you're gonna be allowed to be excused or not. That would be voting outside of a meeting. So all we have to do is contact the city administrator if we can't make it. And if we have done so, essentially, I mean, can you think of any reason why you wouldn't be excused? Well, let's put it this way. I'm not gonna call and say, I'm going to a rock concert because I want to party and have fun with my friends and try fentanyl for the first time.
I'm gonna go to Burning
I'm
Man.
I'm gonna say, I'm really sick.
Mhm.
I can't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's true on any job, anywhere.
So do we want to prevent the council from, because that's what we're talking about here. Prevent the council from ousting someone who calls in and James, you're like, all right, I can't do anything, but I don't really know if you're sick. But okay. Yeah, I'll let people know. So how long would we want to tie the council's hands from removing the person?
Well, let's put it this way, it's a fake excuse of being sick,
Mhm,
unless you are in a hospital.
mhm,
Like literally in ICU with
Mhm.
COVID for 6
Right.
months,
mhm.
isn't gonna fly. You can't just say I have the flu for 2 months straight.
Unless your counselor signs up on it,
Huh? Unless who?
unless you're,
See,
hypothetically, say your doctor signs off on a FMLA
Mhm.
leave of absence.
well, we're talking about excused or unexcused.
But counsel, not,
So if you don't even have to call in to give any kind of an
You
excuse,
do have to. That's a rule.
you do,
I
well,
thought we were trying to eliminate that, no?
No,
Because
no,
I don't think
No,
we should.
I agree.
I think what I'm trying to eliminate is the ability for favoritism
Right.
to toss somebody who has a legitimate excused absences. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I can prove I broke my arm with my hospital bill.
Mhm.
I can prove I have COVID with a screenshot of my test result.
Mhm.
I can prove my daughter was in a car accident from the newspaper clip.
Mhm.
You know, like, I can't prove I had the stomach flu for 4 months.
I just wanted to go fishing, doggone it.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I, I, I would, and I would prefer not to tie the council's hand in getting rid of someone, because in the kind of situation you're describing, um, maybe there are counselors who would really like to go before the city or be called out on Facebook for this person, or those exact things that you just mentioned. She broke her arm, her daughter was in the hospital, and you voted to remove her. Good luck on your reelection campaign.
Something else that comes along 2 weeks later is gonna make them forget all about those petty little things. Especially the 50% of the people that are on the side that voted to get rid of them versus the 50% of the people that are on the side to allow it. I don't know, I don't like favoritism, so I'm never going to agree to that. To being able to let a council decide, because there's always a 4-3 split no matter what. I mean, sorry. It comes down to the majority, 4 or 3, so any 4 people could say,
Yeah, any 4 people after someone is not showing up for 2 months for the job.
or 6 months.
well, maybe 6 months is more realistic, but 2 months. I don't know, I'm just
What
saying.
happens if you've got a couple council members
All right.
doing that?
So our current charter has basically unapproved, says 60 days without the consent of the council. Okay. Do we want to put unapproved? That's not a hill I'm gonna die on either. Unapproved absence from the council.
Yeah.
How is everyone sitting with that?
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, that's middle ground.
Okay. So I'm going to remove this section that talks, this is just the directives for what we just did. Of making, to make the language consistent.
I did have one final question.
Yes,
Removal under the section 8.1, what is that? Number 6.
so. Section 8.1, city manager. We're getting ready to get to that next time.
Oh,
Yes, we've got to our warning of stop and complete all sections above prior to continuing. And guess what we have done?
We've done it.
We have done it. Hey, every section 1 through 7 is approved.
Wow.
I want to throw a wrinkle in, but I did want to go back briefly to
Yeah.
our section 19, our current section 19,
Okay,
powers and duties of the mayor.
no worries. We're actually, are we at time for the evening or are we going 2 hours?
I thought we
2
were
hours,
going.
okay,
I'm good for 2 hours.
okay. For our section 19.
Our current section 19.
Our current section 19, powers and duties of the mayor. I just can't remember if we fixed this.
And then do we, I don't want to throw a wrench in it either, but do we need to conditionally consent the last section that we did because it references 8.1? And we haven't decided if 8.1, what 8.1 is. gonna say.
Um,
We need to make a notation to
Yep.
go back to that.
yes, we do. I'll notate it.
Okay, section 19, the mayor shall appoint the committees provided by rules of the council. The mayor shall sign all approved recordings. Was that first line what you were concerned with, the committees?
No, it's the last line.
Oh. You gotta scroll down a little bit.
Well, can I just see what we consented to? Okay, perfect. We fixed it because there's this big debate that Dan Barclay that has been bringing up about, and others believe that our current charter requires the mayor
To
sign
sign
every
all
single
contracts, it does. That's how I believe it says it.
Right.
too.
But our legal advice says that that is not true.
Where? What legal advice?
Okay, well, if that's true, then I've been violating the charter forever.
I know, so is every city administrator before you.
Right. So we have legal advice from Matt Dahlstrom and then whoever the previous one was, saying something about how that applies to contracts that city council says the mayor must sign. Something, not every single contract. So otherwise, you know, like if we get a delivery of toilet paper. mayor's
No,
gotta sign
that's-
that contract.
No, you're talking about signing a packing slip? No. Contracts like where you hire a employee on a under a contract or,
Some people have, it doesn't matter because we've already consented to it and it does away with it.
well, if we've consented to it, then I have an objection to it.
Yeah, it would, if you're gonna read it literally, it would be all contracts, so like.
Well, then
the
read
contract
to
for-
me
the
what we
contract
did
for Zoom.
consent to. Where does it say what we consented to? Contract.
Sentence all on this side.
I have to
We're getting
get scroll back up there.
Our Zoom subscription could only be signed by the mayor, because that's a contract. Our YouTube subscription would have to be signed by the mayor.
And that's what we consented to there.
Sorry, where? The mayor presides over and facilitates council meeting, preserves order, enforces rules, determines order, voting member of the council and has no veto. The mayor must sign all records of council decisions.
Mhm.
The mayor serves as the political head of government. So. If this is how. That's gonna be presented, then any city administrator could hire. Somebody who's not qualified. A subcontractor. To fill the role of police or fire chief.
Yeah, but-
Without. Running it past the council,
Not, no, because then.
it is
council could-
exactly what happened.
Council could get rid of the
years ago.
CA for not filling their duties.
They signed a contract without council. Knowledge. I mean, without even letting the council know that they were filling that position. In other words, the council thought that that person was employed by the city of Oak Ridge. You see where I'm getting at?
Yes, maybe, but it also says in our charter that the council can only control the CA, the municipal court judge, and the city recorder.
Hmm.
But the mayor must sign all records of council decisions.
And where's the part about the mayor signing check?
Yeah, all
got rid of it on
records is
purpose.
pretty broad.
Yeah,
Is that like contracts? Is that hacking slips? Is it,
No, it says records of council decisions.
what exactly does that
So
mean?
that's only
Resolutions, ordinances.
things that happen during a council meeting.
Right,
So there's all kinds of business that goes on in the city that doesn't come before council.
Like ordering more toilet paper. More printer paper.
And hiring. Staff.
and who's supposed to do that? City administrator?
Mhm.
mhm.
So Dan Barclay's interpretation is that in the charter, our current charter, city administrator gets to appoint personnel. So I can appoint Joe Blow fire chief. But the mayor has to sign employment contract.
That's what I mean as well.
Gotcha. So,
So what I'm saying has happened is it didn't go through the mayor. And so the council never knew.
well, you could have a mayor that doesn't communicate with council.
No way.
I think this is good, what we have. I think we cleaned it up. And it matches what the league board and city was saying.
Why do we have a footnote on
Oh yeah, what is that? Footnote 3.
I'll get back to that. I am hosting a League of Oregon Cities text for our next discussion. I thought we would finish the section we were on, and I'm pleasantly surprised we are we're going on further.
How did we resolve the issue of appointing the committees?
I'm going back up
Council
to it.
decision. Yes, no. We did though, we definitely did, because I remember that was like a 2-meeting discussion. If we put it somewhere else.
So here's the footnote.
Oh, I thought it was specified in our current
Nope.
charter. Oh, well, wait a minute. I guess it depends on what you mean by political
Mhm.
head of Oak Ridge.
Yep.
So I think our current charter says something like the face of.
Mhm.
or something like that.
And then your other question was about committee.
We fixed that. I remember we had 2 meetings about that
Uh-huh.
and we fixed it.
He doesn't want to look at it. No.
Yeah, I don't want to reinvent the wheel because we already did good.
It's okay. I already figured that once we are all done, that's when I'm actually going through it. If I have any concerns, I'll come back.
And I will.
So do we still, no, we don't need to take out the footnote, right?
Correct. So the League of Oregon Cities model charter has some footnotes that we can look at on the text for city manager. Who wants to read A with both of its footnotes?
Well, we have to move that thing out of the way.
I can't do that.
So I'll call it city administrator. The office of city administrator is established as the administrative head of the city government. The city administrator is responsible to the mayor and council for the proper administration of all city business. The city administrator will assist the mayor and council in the development of city policies and carry out policies established by ordinances and resolutions.
Okay. And then the 2 footnotes here.
The city manager exercises the administrative authority delegated by the city charter and the city council. The administrator and the council both exercise administrative authority. Only the council may exercise legislative authority.
And 56.
Oh, sorry. This gives the administrator a role in policy development consistent with the National City League Model Charter 2011, 8th edition and 9th edition, and makes the administrator responsible for carrying out city policy adopted by council resolution or ordinance.
Okay. So
So
there are some questions about our current charter. Here's our the text. We have the city administrator is the administrative head of the city government. Is there a compelling reason to keep the language of city administrator?
Versus city manager.
Yep, versus city manager. So that would be one question.
well, yes, because we don't have to change all of every single document that says city administrator. They're the same thing, they're just different names.
James, you might be able to speak to this. Is there any with your future employment, with your I'm asking you as someone who, you applied for a position, you have an awareness of the job market. Is there any advantage to having city manager versus city administrator as a title?
Not that I can tell.
Okay.
I was curious about that too, and that they are pretty interchangeable.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen much.
Okay.
When I think of office manager or office administrator, I think the administrator has more power or something more responsibility.
Okay.
That word to me just sounds more important.
Yeah, as long as they're functionally equivalent in the job market
Yeah.
or the nod is for administrator, I'm fine with it. The, my question, that was my question there, was job implications. Because if there were any difference, I would not want to hamstring the city into using a particular language that a candidate might say, well, I want this on my resume. So I'm not going to apply for that position, but if they're functionally equivalent, we're good.
Yeah.
All right. So the administrative head of city government.
So it's the same,
That is the same as ours. Yay.
except for manager administrator.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And kudos, by the way, Don, for that great substitution reading. Not easy to do all the time. You nailed it. All right. The city administrator is responsible to the mayor and council for the proper administration of all city business. There's a lot of challenge here in making this section identically parallel.
Mhm.
So here we're getting
I think that it's in the ABCs that mentioned,
so
keeping the council apprised of the affairs and the needs of the affairs. of All city business is the correct.
um, I'm just looking at the league's language here. That's what I was noting. Or what I was suggesting was going to be challenging to make exactly parallel. Because in a lot of sections, there's been a fair bit of parallel. And here, the order is pretty different.
Let's brainstorm about adopting the charter language
Mhm.
and then review our charter and see if there's anything in our charter that we want to include or augment to lead.
The challenge is before we've been able to do that, we've been able to ensure a consistency as we go. And this one, there's so much there that I'm like, unless I add check boxes for making sure everything is covered. Which
Well, we could do a highlight. Do a search for a term and highlight the sections to match.
what I can probably do is move them over at one at a time. So that we can populate the right-hand column once we've confirmed. Yes, that's in our existent, taking care of the existing stuff. And so let's look at some of the footnotes for the leagues. The footnotes for the leagues here have implications for why some of their recommendations are what they are. So, city manager need not reside in the city. we've actually talked that one to death.
At all,
We
ever?
I thought we did, with the, um,
Well, I've missed one or two
oh,
meetings.
this is maybe a year and a quarter ago when we were talking about, our charter, we're going through our charter with, whether you can require employees to live in the city. And some of the current case law is suggesting that, no, you absolutely cannot do that.
Right.
That the only thing you can do is require, close enough proximity to get to the job quickly in the event of an emergency.
Right.
All right, so, and that's what I meant by talk it to death. We had,
Because they used to require New York City police officers to live in New York City. And then who the hell can live in New York City making under $500,000 a year? So that was the first big case. That report.
So you're just talking about the city administrator right now and employees, like
Employees.
yeah,
police,
Mhm.
fire.
We're not talking about employees.
No, I'm talking about employees. There's case law saying you can't force employees to live within the city. You can force them to be within a 30-minute response time or whatever while they're on duty, etc.
Well, our
Okay.
actual, employee handbook says anybody that's an emergency responder has to live within 30 minutes.
Right.
right, within the travel distance for the job, but
But
not
within city limits.
not within the city limits.
They can live in Westford
Mhm.
or High Prairie.
Mhm.
And that's first responder, not city administrator or chief public works.
So are you changing our charter? The administrator need not reside in the city or the state when appointed? You don't have to live in the city at all?
Well, I think they're just drawing a distinction, like, if you're gonna be on city council, you have to live in the city limits for.
Right.
Right,
This section's on city administrator.
Right, I know, but I'm.
But it says right here in our thing that you don't have to live in our state even when you're appointed.
Right,
Mhm.
that
But then
allows
you
us,
have to after that, or you don't.
Yes. Our current one says you do.
Are we looking at changing that so that you don't have to live here?
Mhm.
because you can't. Well, here's what the league's footnote says. If the city wants the charter to require the manager to live in the city, the following may be added. But must become and remain a resident of the city while manager.
That's what ours says.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sort of, kind of, yeah.
In the alternative, if a residence requirement is desired but is not practical due to a housing shortage or other condition, the following may be added, but must live within 30 miles of the city. Either requirement can be imposed more flexibly by ordinance or contract.
I don't think there's anything wrong with letting the city administrator live within 30
I don't either.
minutes of,
Because there is a housing shortage.
and or technically, I mean, some of our city staff drive up here from Eugene every day.
Mhm.
Live in Eugene. Most of our city drives to Eugene to work.
Yeah,
So
yeah, 30 miles might not be enough. How many
Right.
miles is it to Eugene?
More than 30.
34.
Yeah. There you go, 40.
They could live in Lowell or Springfield. With 30 miles.
So what is the LLC proposed?
The manager need not reside in the city, period.
I think it should be 30 or 40 miles. that they could live in New York, right? And just
Yeah, I mean,
easy work.
honestly,
I
if
mean, how would you
we,
do your job?
that's a very good point. Why couldn't somebody live in New York
Or Texas, or
and have, you know, all the work? I mean,
They're
so
gonna
much
appoint,
goes on.
supervise, and remove city employees from New York. I don't think so. Administer and enforce all city ordinances from New York. They're not doing that. You've got to be able to be here in person.
Yeah, and there's something else, when there's something else in the chart, if the city administrator is gonna be away for,
Mhm.
from the city for a certain period of time, they have to appoint.
With
Yeah.
them.
And pro tem cannot serve for more than 6 months, I think.
That's in the event of a vacancy.
Yeah, they can't fulfill the terms of the job if they can't get here.
Well,
I don't know, because there's people I know that are like office manager or whatever of a company, and they do it remotely.
Mhm.
They're not in the state.
there's a lot of Zoom jobs or online telecommute, is what they call it. Jobs for,
They're not,
I don't see why you couldn't manage people over a phone or via Zoom or through emails and texts.
You can do that over a phone or an email. You're fired.
not well, not when the. There's,
5 would be a little harder.
mhm. Administer city utilities and property. Yeah,
You can do that from far.
Hey,
How many
there's
people-
already people doing that. He doesn't have to do all
What
that. He
does
just
it-
has to make sure it's happening.
What does
Right.
administer city utilities and property mean?
the buck stops with the city administrator.
Right,
I mean,
you just email somebody, get your job done. You-
And
Right. The head of public works is advising the city administrator what to do, and all that happens over meetings. It's not that often that the city administrator goes out and looks in the trench and is like, oh, this hydrant has been leaking for years. You gotta get after that.
Yeah, you
Like,
delegate a lot of your responsibility. Right? And then just make sure that it's happening. I know you do a lot. I
Yeah.
know You do.
too
And you
much
drive in the trenches.
Yeah,
Sorry
exactly.
about that.
That's true.
employees.
That's why you need to be here.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's,
You know, yeah,
and the ear on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
in any
Right.
case, we're at time.
Yeah,
I will make an effort to correlate.
yeah, we really have to be careful with this footnote where it says, you know, if housing shortage, stuff, that's why these things are getting struck down.
Mhm.
That's unconstitutional.
So I'll see what I can do to create a little chart that correlates these sections a little more clearly for our next meeting.
and when
Sounds
is
good.
our next meeting? And whoa, look at the
June
time.
13th.
Don't we have some? We're having a meeting June 13th?
That's our next and last scheduled meeting,
Oh, goodness.
What day of the
June
week is that?
13th.
Thursday.
Where does it say that on here?
Thursday?
Oh, there. Boy,
I have it from 6 to 8. Is it 6:30 to 8:30 or 6 to 8?
I have,
It says 6.
what are you guys looking at? I see.
I'm looking at
June-
the calendar.
Looking at
Oh,
the agenda.
next meeting down here, okay.
Ah.
So there's also Review of
June
tentative
17th.
timeline, June 17th. Draft of new charter and public notice for June 27th and 7-11 meetings.
So we have to have a draft published
Good grief.
in the newspaper.
Are we gonna be ready for this?
I would propose that we have.
A draft of the entire proposal?
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, the citizens have to be able to look at it to then come to the meeting. On
draft.
6/27 or 7/11.
Mhm.
To have their input at those public hearings. You can't just expect people to show up at a public hearing.
You
And
can't
read
put
it.
a draft of all of this in the newspaper.
Oh, it doesn't have to be in the newspaper, but it has to be available somewhere for them to. look at.
Yes,
Yes,
online.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. but the notices have to go out and it has to be available. For review, either they come in
Okay.
a paper copy or read it on the internet. So that they,
Internet.
so they're prepared.
Yes, absolutely.
How are you gonna notify people?
Required by law to post in a newspaper at least 10 days prior to the public meeting.
Mhm.
Boy, who gets the newspapers? these
Nobody.
days?
Nobody. So what we also do is, what we also,
Register card, a lot of people get the register card.
yeah, but we also post it on the city website. We post it on the reader board out front. We post it on the post office.
Post office.
So I want to show you all what we have left to cover. Um, So we have a boatload finished. We have done a fantastic job, in my opinion. We have the city manager left. The city manager. We have the judge, the attorney, municipal court and judge. And then first, if we want distinct recorder, personnel, compensation, merit systems, public improvements,
Oh, you're reading the league
leagues,
stuff.
yes.
We have to make sure ours is all covered
Yep.
up too, and we have a recorder in there.
Mhm.
Geez, we got 6 more months.
We
of
got a
work to
lot
do.
of-
What are we cheering for?
It's not gonna happen in one meeting.
Nope, it's not.
And
gonna
I
happen.
also have a concern, a very big concern about this saying August 27th is the deadline.
Mhm.
That document that you sent out says August 3rd. Yeah.
So it's different, from the deadline to file, to run for office.
Mhm.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
But it's still within our public, third public hearing and the approval or recommendation by council.
True. That is true. That may not be that big of a deal.
All right, so can we get 2 more meetings in before,
Yes. And I
before the
have
13th?
4 available dates.
All right, what are your 4 available days?
The only 4 available dates are tomorrow at any time,
Okay,
Friday at any time,
okay,
Monday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Wednesday, June 12th at 7 p.m.
Hey, let me get my calendar.
I can't do tomorrow.
Likewise.
Tomorrow is out.
Even in the evening?
Probably not.
Oh, yeah, I could do 7 p. Yeah.
I can't do the 12.
so can most of us make tomorrow at 7?
7 p.m.
Shit, technically, we wouldn't have noticed the meeting in time. Dang. Sorry, I thought of that.
No worries.
Okay, so tomorrow.
We have Friday, June 7th
Mhm,
at any time,
okay,
Monday, June 10th at 7 PM, or Wednesday, June 12th at 7 PM.
okay.
The meetings before that.
All those work for me.
Well, those are the only 3 days on my calendars. I don't have other meetings.
Right, because you're going to all the other meetings. You're going to, meetings.
I can do the 10th and the 12th, Monday, Wednesday, 7 PM. And I could probably do late on Friday or early,
Two,
or early. 10:30 practice with the team.
I wonder if we could do 6 PM on the 10th or the 12th?
We cannot, there are meetings before, we can't have
Oh.
Zoom meetings.
Oh, you said 7. Okay, never mind. Okay, so then we would have to agree, are we gonna go 7 to 9
On Monday?
on June 10th and June 12th?
Let's slate it for that.
Okay.
And if we're all tired or if any, if there's a sufficient number of us that are too tired at that point, then we'll call it quits.
Monday, June 10th, 7 PM,
Mhm.
Wednesday, June 12th at 7 PM, and Thursday, June 13th at 6 PM.
Thursday.
Yeah, that's our regular scheduled
Oh.
meeting, so we would have 3 meetings that week.
We'd get her done.
Well, yeah, we could, probably.
So let's look at the 7th. Is there any daytime during the 7th that would work for people?
I can.
Like, let's say 8:30 AM.
Yes,
Technically, I am available
Is it Friday?
up until 2 PM.
Okay, two boxes, but that's not the one, so
Okay.
I'm good in the morning or in the evening.
So James, let's go ahead and add that one to
Friday at 8:30.
8:30 AM.
Friday, the 7th. 8:30.
Friday, June 7th, 8:30 AM,
Mhm,
Monday, June 10th, 7 PM, Wednesday, June 12th, 7 PM, Thursday, June 13th, 6 PM.
mhm.
I will need to leave that meeting at 10:29 AM. Exactly.
We'll set alarms.
Sounds good.
Maybe 10:28.
Sounds good.
No, 10:20.
Set an alarm for 10:15, so you
No,
know.
we're not
Yeah.
worried about a quorum, because I can't do the twelve.
No, we do not have to all be present
Okay.
for any of them, because we're not.
So we got Friday, the 7th. 8:30 to 10:30,
Mhm.
Monday, the 10th. 7 to 9. Wednesday, the 12th. Nope. Yes,
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
7 to 9.
7 to 9, and Thursday, the 13th. 6 to 8.
6 to 9, but push it.
Yeah.
Given the 3 that week, I'd actually propose that the 7 o'clock meetings that we have them at an hour and a half. Because I think that will maintain our productivity better when we hit that 4th meeting.
Why don't we just play as we go?
Yeah,
But in terms of any public expectation, whatever.
I know we don't put in times on the
Oh.
public notice, it's just the start time.
Okay. That's fine.
Right.
wow.
So you'll be sending out Zoom? Oops.
The calendar invites?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll let these generate from those then.
And the Monday, the 10th, the 7 was the only time available?
Yes, correct.
All right. Exciting.
It is.
Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.
Thank
8:48.
I have one question for everybody. This doesn't, when What was the last charter review? This is the question I get asked about. when people-
2012, I think it said,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
the last charter revision, not
revision.
review,
Mhm.
because there was no committee formed.
Well,
There was like 3 counselors that did it.
mhm.
It was 2012 when it got put on the ballot.
Ballot. And then what is the normal cycle? How often do charter review?
There is no established protocol by this city, but I would like to propose to
Mhm.
the council to have a minimum of every 5 years. I don't think this kind of review like we've done
Yeah,
is necessary. But just reviewing
mhm.
for like,
Just a minimum of 10 years.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Reviewing at regular intervals would mean probably much less intense effort.
yeah.
Yeah.
That thing in 2012 was just where term limits got implemented. That was really the only thing that.
Because there was also
Mhm.
1 in 10, right?
Okay. That's the. I get asked that question a lot when people start digging about what we're doing.
Yeah, and if you ever, it doesn't say that at the very end.
I think it's in the
It's in there.
beginning, in the very beginning,
What about how often?
about the most recent changes.
Oh, it's
This
the
is
last, very
revised
last.
right on the top of this page.
Oh, is it the last? I didn't know.
Revised November.
Oh, it might be in the beginning too, but I noticed it.
Yeah, this charter takes effect November 1993, revised in 2004. Revised again in 05 and then 010. And then in 11 and then in 12 and
That's a
then
lot.
in 13. No, shall take effect.
That
in
answers the
13.
question that I made the call in the first place to the league.
Yeah, it's also in the
cities
beginning
about,
section.
when it takes
Oh, cool.
place, what we call it, and it's the charter of the year it gets accepted, so. It's next year when it starts, is the year to go into it.
So this is the 2025.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The reviews are implemented, I
Yeah.
think, though,
Yeah.
with either ordinance or resolution, probably ordinance. We don't have a established.
Turn off recording.